three stages of information processing are stimulus identification stage, response selection stage, and movement programming stage. Here's Dr. Arnett giving his take on the three stages.
So stimulus identification is where we're picking up stimuli from the environment. Stimuli can be anything: light, sound, movement patterns of someone maybe we're competing against. After we've done that stimulus identification, figure out which ones are important, we respond to those and go, okay, this is a stimulus I need to respond to, and we pick something to respond to it. So if it's an opponent, it may be I need to try to cut and move around that opponent. After I've chosen that, then I can go ahead and prep the body so I can send the motor program to the muscles that will let me do that cutting movements, and that would be the response programming stage.
Here is an example of the use of the three information processing stages. Nathan is wanting to cross the street and first identifies that there is a car coming. Next, he selects a response of waiting to cross the street until after the car passes. Then he completes the process by crossing the street.
So in a perfect world, you would go through these three information processing stages without any interruptions and get the expected outcome. But we're not in a perfect world. So there are multiple factors that can affect these three information processing stages. One of them being a number of different stimuli in your environment. So the more stimuli that you have to identify, the longer it takes to process a response, which Hicks' law kind of demonstrates that.
Hey, what's up, man? Ah, sad, dude.
So here there are multiple stimuli coming in. He sees the car, but Alex is also saying hey to him. Therefore his response time is delayed, which leads to consequences.
Oh my god, a car!
Another factor that affects the three information processing stages is attention. And attention is related to the limitations of doing two things at the same time.
So here Nathan is texting while crossing the street and isn't paying full attention to the car. He sees it last minute and has to jump out of the way.
Another factor that affects the information processing stages is spatial anticipation, which is being able to predict what happens in your environment before it happens. For example, if Nathan's crossing the street during the day, he will anticipate there being a busy street, so he will recognize that. Versus at night, when it might not be as busy, so he won't anticipate a car coming.
Okay, so it affects the three information processing stages because if you can anticipate a certain stimulus, like a car coming in the middle of the day, then you can go ahead and start anticipating a certain response to that stimulus.
So why do you feel that it's important to learn about the three information processing stages?
I'll give you a personal story. Right now I'm teaching Ryker, my son, how to do Olympic lifting. So one of the things that I focus on with him is knowing where he should focus his attention when he starts going, so he knows to identify the right stimulus of the movement. As he goes through, to know what part he's supposed to select in terms of his response to what's going on around him. And then the last component is where he decides what needs to be done. So if I tell him he needs to be able to lift faster, then that becomes the new stimulus he's supposed to focus on. He has to pick a response to move faster, and then he can set up his body through programming to be able to do that.